It's time for Tackle My TBR Shelf. Hey guys, it's Jenny. Welcome back to the Bookworms Buddy. Today it's time for Tackle My TBR Shelf, and I did pretty good. I ended up reading 12 books off my TBR shelf, and that's what I'm going to cover for this last week of April. Last week I was starting What You Hide, and this is by Natalie D. Richards. This was so much better than the first one. 6 months later it was called, so I was happy about that. This was really more romance, I think, than anything. There was a little bit of mystery in there. You have Mallory, and she's a good girl, but she lives in an abusive home because her mother remarried somebody else. It's pretty much just verbally abusive at this point, but she feels like she needs to get out. She's trying to get her mother out as well, but her mother refused. And then you got Spencer. I think it was Spencer, yeah. You got Spencer, who's he's not really a bad guy, but he likes to climb. Ever since he went to this place for rock climbing and wall climbing and all that stuff, he really got into it. And he saw this library and said that'd be really cool to climb. He climbed it. He broke a window. He has to have community service now, which happens to be at the same library where he broke the window. And then he ends up meeting Mallory. They come together, and there's kind of a little bit of a mystery surrounding what's going on in the library, and that's all I'm going to tell you. Like I said, it felt more like a romance than anything else. There's really no thriller aspects to the story, which I thought there was going to be. Anyway, there's this one, and I ended up rating this one 4 stars. So that was the first one I read in the beginning of the week. And then the next one I picked up was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Now this book was on to read this year. This wasn't one specifically on my TBR shelf. This one is really one of those feel-good books. There's a lot of philosophy, a lot of prose. You got Santiago, who is a shepherd, and he likes to travel. So he travels with his sheep. He can sell the wool and that kind of stuff. He has a dream that he has to get his treasure, find his treasure at where the pyramids are. So along the way, he meets a gypsy woman, an old man who claims he's a king, and then the alchemist, and they all give them their words of wisdom. And it's just really a feel-good book. I rated this 4 stars. I thought it was a really good read. It's really small. So that was the second book that I finished last week. And the final book that I finished for my TBR shelf for April was Friend Request. This is by Laura Marshall. I got this book from Dollar General like 3 or 4 years ago. And it was just sitting there on my shelf, untouched. And when I was doing a walkthrough of my library and figuring out if I was going to do an unhaul, this almost ended up on the unhaul. And I said, you know what, I got this because it sounded good, so I am going to read it instead. I'm going to give it a chance and put it on my TBR shelf. Well, it was time to pick it up. A little apprehensive because, I don't know, I just didn't think I was going to like it. But I actually really did like it. In this book, you have Louise, and you're going to past, back to present, to past, back to present. In the past, you learn about her high school years, and then in the present is her becoming aware of something pretty sinister. There was a lot of good mystery in this. So the story is that Louise was in school, and she wanted to be one of the popular girls, and she really wasn't. But she could be if she hung out with Sophie. And the only reason she was able to be among the other girls of this group was because of Sophie. So they struck up a kind of toxic friendship. It wasn't like one of those all warm kind of friendships. And she was part friends with this girl named Maria. And then she just kind of dropped her by the wayside and started hanging out with Sophia. and they did some really bad things, and Maria ended up disappearing right after prom. And so all these years, 27 years later, she sent a friend request to Louise, and Louise is kind of freaked out. She thinks she disappeared. It was because of them and the things they did and that kind of stuff. So the story goes on from there. It was really very good. Lots of good mystery, except one thing. There was no closure in this book. It ended, and there was nothing. It just, they didn't catch the bad guy, and I can't say anything else because I don't want to give it away, because it is actually a really good read. I didn't rate it. I still haven't decided what I want to rate it because of that. It happened again. With no closure. I hate books that just don't give you that. It's just wide open, like another book could come. Well, this, I think, was released in 2017. It's already 2022, and I haven't heard a thing about it. So, I don't know what the plans are for this. So, I didn't rate it. I may end up rating this at some point, but it was really good mystery. I couldn't solve anything in it. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, it's unrated right now. So those are the 3 books that I finished last week for Tackle My TBR Shelf. This will continue in July, because this month is my new series-a-thon, and June is Read Your E-Reader. So in July, I will finish that TBR shelf and start on the next TBR shelf, and we'll go from there. If you've read any of these books, then let me know in the comments below, and we will talk about it. Thanks, guys, for staying tuned, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.